Hello and welcome back. This is Dawn with another video for Pinkfresh Studio. So today we are going to be working with Washi. Now Pinkfresh just released they had an Artsy Floral release, which has 4 new Washi designs, and these are part of a product suite. So you have a whole suite of products that all coordinate together. You have the stamp set, which you can use alone, and you can add your own color. It comes with some sentiments here. There is a coordinating die that will cut out the stamp set, a stencil to color in the stamp set, and then you have a roll of washi tape. Now, the dies work with the washi and the stamp set and the stencils, so you can use these together or separately. Now, normally I would gravitate toward the stamp set because I'm all about creating the focal point. But today I wanted to play with the washi. Again, this is a new to me concept, so I'm all about coloring. I'm a colorist. But I also want to improve my skills in the layout and background work on my cards. I tend to stick to a formula when creating. I put all of my time and energy into either painting or coloring. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity for me to have the focal points done, and I can focus more on creating my interesting background treatments. So I've got the washi tape here, and I have laid it out onto half a sheet of cardstock. So this is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock that I've cut right down the middle at 4.25 of an inch. And now I have just rolled the washi tape onto that piece of cardstock here. Now the designs on these washis are a repeating pattern, and the pattern completely, perfectly lines up with the stamp set, the stencil, and the die set. So now that I have cut this roll off at the end of the pattern, when I go to use it again, I can just pull out from the beginning to the end of the pattern and everything will line up perfectly. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. I had this extra motif from the beginning of the roll. I'm just going to stick that on a piece of vellum. It is the full motif, so no need to waste it. I can die cut that out and have something a little bit different. I like to burnish my washi tape onto the cardstock here using my bone folder. This will just make sure that, 1, it's adhered nicely to the cardstock, and 2, there aren't any air bubbles in the washi tape itself. So a quick run over with my bone folder, and here you can see how beautiful this is. We've got these gorgeous hand-painted watercolor florals and a beautiful high shine foil detail on all of these washis as well. This is perfect for creating cards when you just need something quick. All of the beautiful watercolors already done. So I've grabbed the Artsy Floral die here, and I think I forgot to mention this is the namesake for the release. This is the Artsy Floral washi tape. The die here is all one die, so it's all connected, but it will cut out all of these pieces individually, and you'll notice that it lines up perfectly with the washi tape. So all you have to do is lay this over and tape it into place. Now I have noticed washi tape does not like to stick to washi tape. Go figure. You'd never be able to get it off the roll if it did, right? So after using copious amounts of washi tape and realizing that this was still shifting on me, it hit me washi on washi. So what I now do is I will make sure that the washi tape is touching the cardstock. So it's taped to the cardstock, which in this case means I just need to fold it over the edges. So it's grabbing the cardstock at the top there, and then on each side I wrapped it around the back. So it's holding the die in place by actually making contact with the cardstock and not just washi on washi, because it's not going to work, peeps. Trust me, ask me how I know. So here we have all of our little watercolored pieces die cut, and basically we have our own ephemera here that we can use, and we have a whole roll of it, so we can cut as many as we want. We don't have to baby these. We don't have to treat them like they're gold because it's the only one we have of that design. We got a whole roll of washi tape, so we can really experiment and have fun with our layouts. And like I mentioned, there are 4 of these product suites, these washi suites in this release. This is the Fluttering Butterflies. Again, has all of the same products, the stamp set, the die, the stencil, and the washi tape. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my washi designs here using that coordinating die. And you guys, this Fluttering Butterflies may be my favorite of the release. I know, shocker, I'm a floral girl, but leaves are right up there, number 2. And who doesn't love a butterfly? So good. Such a versatile set. There's also the Vines and Roses. So here's the washi from that. Again, this does have a coordinating stamp set, die, and stencil as well. And just like before, we're going to die cut all of these pieces. Now what I'm going to be left with is a pile of ephemera here that I can then, all I have to worry about is the arrangement, how I want to put it on the card. All of the beautiful watercoloring is done, and again, I have a near endless supply because those are big rolls of washi, guys. All right, so I've separated these out and put them in this little compartmented tray. This will just make it easier for me to pull from when I go to create. I also stamped and heat embossed some in white on vellum and die cut those. For the sentiments, I did a couple of different ones here. I stamped some out and heat embossed them in gold. I stamped a couple of them in brown, and then I did some of them in black. Again, this I can just grab the sentiment that I want once I get my card together and I'm good to go. Now here's a little crafty tip. I've got a lot of ephemera here, and what I like to do is I grab the stamp storage pockets here and I just put all of my leftovers together in the storage pocket. So here you can see I've got some leftovers from some other projects that I've done. And then on days that I may be creatively stumped or I just want to make something pretty but I don't have a whole lot of time, I've got this little stash of goodies here ready to go, and I can just put together a card quickly. I do the same thing with extra sentiments because let's face it, sometimes we stamp out a couple and we don't use them. So I store those in a pocket as well as extra panels. So if I die cut something and I don't end up using it, or I foil something, I just slip it into this pocket. And again, I've stored these with my stamp sets, and then I've got some pieces ready to go, and we'll be using some of these today in our cards. So for the first card, I'm going to use one of the discards here from a previous card that I made. So I went into my little pouch and I had this frame left over from where I had cut a panel using the new notched corner frames. So I'm going to use that to create kind of a window here. And on my background, I'm going to take all of these little ephemera pieces that I've created using that washi tape, and I'm just going to experiment with creating a little scene in the background here. It's actually refreshing to be able to have so many gorgeous little images already at the go, and I didn't have to spend a lot of time creating them. Now I still will be watercoloring and painting my own, don't you worry. But sometimes it's nice just to be able to focus on the things that you maybe consider not your strong point. So here for me, like I said, I'd like to improve the variety of my layouts and the way that I use some of my background treatments. So here I thought, well, let's just step this up a notch. If I had painted or colored these images, I'd consider this a good card, put my sentiment on it and be done. But I still have plenty of energy here, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut another panel here, or another frame that I'm going to nest inside of that outer frame. I've grabbed some brushed gold cardstock here, and I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. Now this is going to give me a double mat, so I'm going to have another mat in this nice gold that'll fit inside my other frame there. And then that extra panel I'll put into my pouch, and I can use that on a future card. So here when we layer these two together, I'll end up with a double mat, and that brushed gold cardstock is going to pick up on the gold details in these washi tapes beautifully. So they're going to play off of each other well. Now you'll notice our inner gold frame has all of that detail etched into it, and our outer frame is just plain and smooth. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab the largest detail layer here from the notched corner frame dies. We're going to tape that into place, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine, and that's going to give us that same beautiful detail on our outer rectangle as we have on that inner gold one. Again, this is just another way that you can step it up. So here when I remove the die, you'll see that we now have that matching pattern in both our white frame and our gold frame. And I just love the added extra touch that this adds. We're going to go ahead and use some liquid adhesive to adhere our gold frame inside of our white frame. And then we've got this beautiful double matted window here for our scenery. And I like to use the liquid adhesive for this step because it does provide me a little bit of wiggle room to get those perfectly lined up and pressed into place. Okay, so for the background, I could go with a plain white panel back there, but I decided I wanted to add a little interest, so I grabbed the Dotted Petals press plate and my Better Press system, and we're going to add a little bit of letterpress back there, a little bit of blind letterpress. I don't want to compete with our leaves and our butterflies. I just want to add a little bit of subtle texture back there. Now you could use an embossing folder or something like that, but I happen to really, really love the look of letterpress, and there is just something so luxurious about the feel of the cotton paper. It really does make your cards just feel a little bit more expensive, a little bit more elegant. So here I'm going to go ahead and tape my cotton card panel here to my platen. I'm going to put my plate onto the Better Press Chase here. There's markings on both to outline an A2 size card, so I'm going to go ahead and use those when I'm working on my placement. I'm going to flip that platen over onto the Chase and then run this through my die cut machine. And you can see here when I flip this over that we've got this beautiful, beautiful impressed pattern on the cotton card panel there, and it really is stunning. Absolutely beautiful. So that's going to be our background here, and you can see it just adds that little bit of texture to the background without distracting from the actual focal point of the card. So then all that's left is to start gluing everything in place and assembling our card. I'm going to go ahead and arrange my butterflies and my leaves back in the center and start adhering everything. I've already placed the leaves exactly where I want them, so I'm going to hold them in place and just kind of flip up some pieces and add a little liquid adhesive underneath. I'm leaving some of the leaves free so that if I want to, I can use a little foam adhesive to pop some pieces up for a little dimension if I want. So I'm just making sure that I get them adhered in place lightly at this point. I don't want to say lightly. They're going to be adhered securely, but only in a few spots. All right, so now we're going to adhere that panel directly to our card base. This is a standard A2 card base, so it's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Again, we're just using that liquid adhesive to get that into place. And then we're going to adhere our outer frames on top of this. Now this time, instead of using foam adhesive, I've cut a couple more of those frames out of scrap cardstock. I've adhered them one on top of the other, adhered those to the back of my frame, and now I'm using liquid adhesive to adhere this to my card. This is going to provide me just a little bit of dimension, but it's going to be stable. So I'm not going to have to worry about it getting smushed or misshapen in the mail. It's just going to provide a nice solid surface to add a little bit of dimension between the back of my card and these frames. Now I'm just going to adhere the butterflies and my sentiment. I used a little liquid adhesive and some foam tape for the butterflies, so I glued their wings down on one side and then added a little bit of foam adhesive underneath the other wing. And this is just a fun way to add a little bit more dimension and make it look like their wings are standing up. For my sentiment, per usual, I cut a couple of the sentiments so I could stack them one on top of the other. So the top layer is stamped, and then I cut 2 more blanks to adhere one on top of the other, and then I just adhered that directly to my card base with a little liquid adhesive. Now to finish off the card, I'm going to add a few gems. These are the clear with gold dust, and I'm just going to sprinkle those around the background. And that's going to pretty much finish off this card. We will review it at the end, but for now, let's go ahead and look at the second card. All right, so in my stash, I had this background that I had previously hot foiled using the Dotted Petals press plate. And I didn't use it at the time, but I thought, I bet you I can utilize it now. So I cut another label with that notched corner frame die, and I think that these look beautiful together. So knowing that this was going to be my basic background, it was time to focus on creating my arrangement. I grabbed the Artsy Floral die cuts and I started playing around with a couple of different arrangements. I've sped this up and left this in because there's quite a few ideas that you can see here as I'm going through. A lot of these would work, these arrangements. Put this large bouquet, one of these sentiments, you're done. Then you could add a butterfly to it. Again, another possibility. You could use some of the smaller elements to create your own arrangements. And I am really, really enjoying this product line. Like I said, this is my first time exploring using the washi tape product suites, and I think it is great. It is great for when you are either feeling a little stuck, a little creatively stuck, and you just want to be able to create something pretty. They're beautiful. You're not going to go wrong. Or if you are short on time, or if you are not the best colorist yet. These are great for looking at as inspiration. Try to recreate your own with the stamp set. So you've got the washi design. It's kind of like a good little blueprint. And then you can use those for inspiration for practicing your own watercolor or your own Copic coloring. So I went ahead and tried a couple of different arrangements, and because I had all of these pieces already done and cut, I wasn't afraid to try different things, like the vellum pieces in there would have looked really good, and I didn't have to stop to create them. They were already done. And really, just watching back this footage, I've seen at least 3 or 4 layouts that would have worked. Eventually, though, I settled in on this layout. We're honing in on it right now. And then all I have left to do now is adhere these in place. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere those in place. And again, we will review this card at the end of the video. For now, let's jump into the third card. And for this final card, we're going to borrow a lot of the same design elements that we used in the other 2 cards. This is something that I do a lot, especially when I'm making multiples of cards. This time we're going to pull out the garden tapestry press plate, and we're going to hot foil this one. This time, instead of hot foiling in gold like we did on the last card, we are going to hot foil in white on that brushed gold cardstock. So we're going to bring that brushed gold cardstock from the first design into this design. Now this is something that I've done before with sentiments, the white foiling on the gold cardstock, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I was anxious to see how it would look with a more intricate design like this. Now I like to use the hinge method when I do hot foil, so I will place the washi tape on one side of my die, flip it back. I'm going to slide my foil shiny side up so the pretty side of the foil touches the plate here. Then I'll just flip that die back over into place. And then I'll trim off the excess foil and add another piece of washi on one of the other sides to hold it securely together. I'm going to pick the whole thing up and place it plate down on my glimmer machine. I'll press the timer. I'll add my shim and my plate on top here, and then once that light stops flashing, I'm going to take this and send it through my die cutting machine. When it's done, I'm going to put it back in the carrier here. I'm going to allow it a couple seconds to cool down, but I always grab it when it's too hot, you guys. But when I remove this plate, the heat and the pressure will have transferred that design to my cardstock. So you'll see here, we've got that beautiful intricate design. And when I remove the foil here, you can see it's left behind that white foiling on that gold cardstock, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so I'm going to use the coordinating garden tapestry die to die cut this. I'm going to tape it in place, run it through my die cut machine, and then this is going to go right in the center here of my letterpressed panel. Again, I borrowed that blind letterpress from our first card. I'm going to incorporate it into this card as well. Add some liquid adhesive on the back of this medallion, and then I'm going to use my grid mat here to make sure that I've got this perfectly centered. Using that point on the top and the bottom and lining it up with those vertical lines on my grid mat. Then I'll push that into place. And I really love how elegant this is. It's a lot more elegant than I usually go for, but I'm really liking it. So I don't really want all of that pattern in the center there of the medallion, so I'm going to use the folk edge circle dies here to cut a white circle to go over that that filigreed area in the center of the medallion. I just really want the top and the bottom to show, and that'll give me somewhere to arrange my florals and my butterflies there in the middle, and I won't have all of that busy pattern competing in the background. So I tested out a few ways. I cut it from white, laid that on top, then arranged my florals, but eventually I settled on using a gold frame. In hindsight, this would have worked as well, but I do really like the way that it turned out. So let's go ahead and review all of our final cards. So here are the 3 finished cards. I absolutely love how these turned out. So in the first one, we did that double matting using those notched corner frame dies, and then we did that blind letterpress in the back using the dotted petals. Again, we used the fluttering butterflies for our ephemera here to create our focal point. And then I added a few of those gems there, the gold dust, the sprinkled dust of gold. Oof, I'm never going to remember what those are called. They're like a sprinkle of gold, a dust of gold gems. They'll be linked below. Everything that I used in today's video will be linked below. So if you're looking for anything, make sure you check the description box. All right, so then for the second card, we went ahead and used those dotted petals again. This time we hot foiled them in the background. We used another panel there from our notched corner frame dies. And this time we paired the artsy florals with the fluttering butterflies. Again, those gems make an appearance. I love the way this one turned out. Super simple, absolutely gorgeous. Finally, for our third card, we borrowed again that blind letterpress in the background there using the dotted petals. Then we did some hot foiling using that garden tapestry. We created just almost like a a medallion type look here, and it just separates the circle from the background, but gives it a more elongated vertical shape so that it doesn't feel like that circle's just floating in the middle of the card. So I really enjoyed playing with the Washi product suites. I couldn't be happier with the way these cards turned out. Hopefully this gives you guys some inspiration on what to do with your washi tape and then the coordinating products. Hopefully it inspires you to try something different. Go outside of your comfort zone. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. If you're looking for any of the products, they'll be in the description box below. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave it in the comments. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.